they initially experience is based on what their mind pattern is projecting, so that if you think when you die you're going to see Jesus, that's what you're going to see. Your mind will project into the astral layers that you go into whatever it is that you perceive. Ultimately, we all go into an area of what I call oversoul or hyperspace level, where your higher intelligence directs and reviews the lifetime that you've just experienced and then determines where it is that you need to go next, whether it's on the earth or somewhere else. Reptilians, they also have soul personalities, except that they're more species mind related. In other words, instead of being so much as an individual, they're more like a group mind or a hive mind, which is what they're trying to create in humanity through programming. So ultimately, we all experience what we think we're going to experience initially, and then as we become more aware of what and who we really are, we go into other dimensions and existences to help us progress in our path back towards the God mind. So it would be different initially for each individual, but ultimately we all go back to source or God mind.
Okay, thanks. Let's go to our Wildcard Line. You're on with Stewart Swerdlow on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hey, this is David here in San Diego.
Yeah, Dave, go ahead.
Hey, I just want to let you, I got the Lemurian Fellowship booklet in front of me here, and I've actually been to their compound, and I've done some work for them. And the creepiest thing is that they're all gray-haired old people, and they're really small, and none of them would talk to me except for the main guy, and the rest of them just stood around with their hands clasped in front of them, smiling like beatifically at me, you know. And I tried to talk to them, and they refused to talk to me. They would just smile. And also at the back of their book, the one thing they say that their order is for is to the formation of an ideal society and long-term efforts for their plan, the great work, and to build for quality for citizenship in the coming new order. And that is really creepy. And the Atlantis is their second coming of the second civilization. The first one was the continent of Mu in the Pacific Ocean. And I just wanted to let you guys know that. I didn't hear it say it.
Okay. Stewart, you want to comment on that? And then I have a question about Atlantis for you.
Yeah, well, to me, what this gentleman in San Diego just mentioned sounds like there might be some kind of a cult, although I do agree with Lemurian coming first and then the Atlantean civilization existing. I've never heard of this group particularly before, but it could very well be a group that's a form of mind control or programming. There's all kinds of programming out there, as we saw with the group that committed suicide when Hale Bopp came by. So there's many different subgroups out there, and what I would call a cult.
Would you get chipped, Stewart, if they asked you to? A microchip?
Unfortunately, I already have some of these chips in me that have been X-rayed, actually.
What?
Yeah, in fact, all people who were in Montauk Project and anyone who claims to be abducted for whatever reason, many of these people do have chips in them. I will say that the microchips are kind of an obsolete technology now, because the way the satellite technology is and computer technology, they don't even have to chip you anymore. They can tune in directly to your brain frequency and direct you in whatever way they wish. They don't have to microchip. The microchip you can consider as a backup system, but they no longer need that.
Okay, let's pick it up, and we'll go to our next Wildcard Line. It's your turn. You're on with Stewart. Hi there.
Hi, Stewart. How are you?
Hi.
Great, it is me. George, you really do have to get that to where they have the different wildcard lines so that when you go to a caller, they know they're on the air.
Yeah, it is true. Every time I go to a wildcard line, you all think it's you, don't you?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, you start talking. It's great. Stewart,
we gotta figure out how that is. Maybe I'll tell you what. I'll talk with Tom about it. I know how we can fix it. Go ahead. Thanks.
You've got it. Hey, Stewart. First of all, this is Chad in Seattle, Washington.
Hello.
With Inner Circle Publishing, and I tell you what, you did your homework. You know more than you're allowed to say, and yet you're saying it anyway, and I appreciate that. First of all, have you seen them yourself?
The reptilians?
Yeah.
Yes, I have seen them, and I've also have seen someone shapeshift directly in front of me.
Okay, so you've direct contact. Do you know about the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases? We've got about 180 of them in the U.S.
Yes, this is known, and there's many more around the world and even under the ocean.
Yeah, even connecting. Interesting. Do you know where 91% of the missing children in this country end up?
Well, many of them end up in ritual sacrifice, unfortunately.
Underneath Denver Import. Absolutely. Well, like I said, you've done your homework, and it's just great to hear you on the air. I've never heard of you before, but Coast to Coast is great for bringing new information to people.
He is a first-time guest, but you know what, Stewart? I don't think you're going to be a last-time guest. I have a feeling you're going to come back.
Well, I appreciate that.
It's a fascinating program. Look, I owe you two. You tell me about your books and where you can get them.
Yes, my books are available at my website at expansions.com, and you can also call 269-429-8615 to order any books or consultations or DVDs. I do have DVDs on all of this information that we've talked about tonight and much more.
Okay, very good. Let's go back to the phones. We'll go to our East of the Rockies line. You're on Coast to Coast. Hello there.
Good evening, George. Good evening, Stewart. How you guys doing?
Hi, fine.
Good. This is John from Newark, Delaware. You talked earlier about that all of us humans here on this planet have 10 to 15% DNA, reptilian DNA.
Yes, on an average.
How did you get DNA, since you have to have a reptilian and have to have their DNA to compare it to? How did you get it?
Well, if you listened about how all human beings have reptilian DNA from the hybridization program in ancient times.
Well, how did they get it, is what I'm saying. You have to have a piece of their skin or saliva or something to get the DNA to compare it to.
Oh, I see what you're saying, like a sample of the reptilian. Yes, well, you know, the reptilians have been interacting with the government for many, many decades. And so, yes, there is availability for getting that kind of DNA. There was even reptilians at the Dulce base at the Four Corners area in New Mexico, which, as you know, there was an event there that the aliens took back that base on their own. There's many, many stories of battles that have occurred throughout the Earth where reptilians have been killed and their DNA has been taken.
Well, how come the whole world doesn't know this? Do you actually believe that you got DNA from reptilians?
I know that they have.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's great entertainment for the show, but personally, I think you're a complete whack.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, and I think that people who don't accept this are really in for a ride on themselves.
Oh, I'll tell you what, Stewart, you know, the important thing of the information you're bringing out is that you at least make people think.
Well, you know, George, I think that some of the material that people don't want to accept, they have fear issues, so they attack the messenger, and that makes them feel comfortable.
Right. I don't have any problems with people not believing what you're saying, or they don't accept what you're saying. That, you know, the strength of this program is to take what our guest says without, major conflict in the comment and just, make up our own minds. You know, I could sit back here and jump up and down or not. And I don't want to do that. I'd much rather people make up their own minds and decide if what they think they hear is correct or not.
Well, I agree with that.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air with us. Hi there.
Yeah, hi, my name's Zach. I just wanted to say, hey, I'm so glad you came on. I've been waiting for such a long time just to hear this kind of topic on your show about mind control. I wanted to get into a couple things specifically. I've been trying to find out as much info as I could trauma-based mind control. Do they even do that so much anymore now that they have, other types of things like microwave, antennas and everything like that? And have you ever seen any of those trauma-based mind control rituals, or what do you know about that?
Yes, in fact, I have an entire DVD on that topic. True that to take an individual in a so-called programming session to traumatize them, although that does occur from time to time still, they are able now with the new technology to directly transmit programming information into a human brain. And that is done, again, as I mentioned, from satellite transmission, cell tower transmission, and there's even ways of doing it through television, radio, and even through the wiring in your home, where they can transmit certain frequencies that download into the brain. The biggest download basically occurs overnight when people are sleeping, because that's the easiest time. There's no resistance. I have seen these trauma-based incidences. I've unfortunately had them happen to me during the Montauk Project. So yes, these things do occur. And you're correct that the new technology now can circumvent most of the physical need for programming sessions.
Let's go next to, we're not going to have time. Let me ask you this, though. You seem to have hope that we're going to win this. Is that true?
I think we have to. There's no question in my mind that he has to overcome this. And no one remains ignorant forever. Ultimately, people will say they've just had enough. And again, they can't the God mind within you. They can only make you think that you're not connected to God mind, but it is always there. And in my work, I help people to connect that, to realize that, and to utilize that.
All right. Sounds like you have call weighty, by the way. Did you have another call coming in?
I wasn't paying attention to it.
I heard you drop out for just a little bit. No, you cannot take the other call, Stewart. You're going to stay with me. I know that. Well, we're going to come back. We're going to take more phone calls. Stewart, do you get support when you talk about this topic, or do people kind of shun you?
I'm getting mostly support. Of course, there's always people out there who don't want to hear this or to accept it. And again, I agree, it's their prerogative. And I don't force anyone to believe it. I state what I know, and you can accept or reject it. However, rejecting it doesn't change what I know or what I experienced. But for the most part, I have these days a lot of acceptance and support in this work.
Well, good for you. All right, well, stick with us. We'll be back in a moment. Very quick night. We'll take your final phone calls on Coast to Coast AM. I'm George Norrie. Under some of these mind control programs, can somebody be deprogrammed?
Absolutely.
Well, that's one good thing. Do you have to do it through a specialist or what?
Well, you have to know the techniques to download the programming and undo it. And I have an entire series of visualizations and exercises that I teach people and coach them through in order to do this. And it is a long process. It's not going to happen in a couple of days or a couple of weeks. It takes years and years. In fact, I have been deprogramming since 1990, and I still have a bit to go as well. So no one should expect to have it done quickly. I feel that it can be done and it can be accomplished ultimately, completely, but you need to be patient and consistent and persistent.
Let's go back to final calls. West of the Rockies, where are you calling from? Hi there.
Hi, this is Cindy calling from Cedar City, Utah.
Hi, Cindy.
And my question is, what are crop circles? And I'll take my answer off the air.
Stuart, you haven't brought up crop circles. Do you want to talk about that? If not, I'll go ahead.
I'll talk. Sure, no problem.
Take it away.
Jokingly, I call them crap circles, and that is because they're not what people think they are. I happen to have known the person at Brookhaven National Labs who said that he helped create them. What they basically are energetic injections into the morphogenetic grid of the Earth to change life forms on the surface and even below. So what you're seeing are archetype symbols, what I call language of hyperspace that I teach, which are being put in a sentence form to get a certain result. so that if they want to change the genetics of a certain species or a group of or change something in an area, they will create these crop circles that go into the genetic grid there and then alter everything in the area. They're not from Space Brothers.
Okay, and also, go to earthfiles.com if you also want to get another explanation on crop formations from Linda Moulton Howe. Let's go to our first-time caller line. You're on with Stewart Swerdlow. Hi there.
Hello.
Yes, take it away.
Hey, this is Casey. I was going to say, first of all, hello, George.
Hi, Casey.
And, I have two quick questions for Stewart. The first being, I guess, open to either one of you, is the reptilians that you guys are speaking of, is this similar to the reptoids that have been spoken of in the past on this program? And
yep.
Number two question also, Stewart was claiming, he was talking about certain members of Congress, or I should say political members, having lesions taken off of them, being, I guess, remnants of leftover reptilian skin. Is he claiming, or, I'm sorry, Stewart, could you claim that anyone, could you name a name, I'm saying, in the United States, political member? I guess that's kind of a not very clear question.
Well, I'll just tell you that, for example, Vice President Cheney had this done, and so did President Bush.
That's exactly what came to mind.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and as far as the first question, honestly, I don't know about what was discussed on this program previously about reptoids, but I would imagine they're similar or the same.
Very similar.
Okay. Well, that'll be all. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Case. Thank you. Appreciate you being part of the program. Let's see. Well, my machines are jammed up here, Stuart. So let's go to our pick a card here, Stevie, until I get my computer back up. East of the Rockies. You're on Coast to Coast.
Hi.
Hello there.
Hi, this is Steve from Springfield, Mass.
Hey, Steve.
Hi. And I have a question for the guest, and I'm not trying to attack the messenger. I keep my mind very open to all these subjects, but also I'm not the kind of person that buys the Brooklyn Bridge for $1 right away either. And I'd like to know how he explains the hard evidence that we have about history, like the geological layers, the KT boundary all over the Earth, above which there's no dinosaur fossils found, which is 65 million years old. And it's a fascinating thing that he's talking about. But I'm just thinking about all this different knowledge that I have, some of which would require the cooperation of all kinds of geologists and scientists and paleontologists. And we're talking about a government whose secret agency can't even keep top secret anti-terrorist programs out of the New York Times. I'm wondering about these things.
All right, that's a good question. Go ahead, Stuart.
Mm-hmm, yes. History, science, all of the publicly released information on those topics are basically sanctioned by the government. And in fact, history is written by the victors, as they say, and it's been rewritten many times. And, I had a client, an elderly man from Tennessee, who remembered years ago in the 1920s when he was in public school reading from his school book about Admiral Byrd's trip to the North Pole, where he found an entrance to the inner Earth and the tropical plants and animals that existed there. And then he said one day that there were people from Washington that came to the school and took all the books away and replaced them with different books that didn't have that information in it anymore. So as we go through time and as certain control systems are in place, different information is released to the public. There was something called Education 2000. That was a global education system where everyone in every country had to learn the same history, the same science, no matter where they lived. So there's a globalization of information, and the information has to be approved by the global government. So basically what I'm saying is that science information, history information is written so that you understand things in a certain way, and very often it obliterates or covers up the truth.
Anne from California says this program makes a lot of sense. Please ask Stewart why we seem to be acting like zombies all the time. Now, she's right about that. People seem brain dead.
I've been saying that a very long time, and, you know, again, it goes what I mentioned about creating a robotical society where everyone just performs their function without question. And not only that, they want everyone to be on some kind of a pill, some medication that alters the way you think, alters the brain waves, and they enhance this with ELF that they bombard the earth with to make people go along with whatever it is that's happening.
What happened was the person known as Christ, whom in those days was called Emmanuel, and by the way, the name Jesus is a modern invention, and the word or term Yeshua is also a modern invention. Yehoshua, as they call him. Right. There was no Hebrew name like that. There was Joshua, and there was Joseph, but there was no Yeshua, Yehoshua. That's made up. Right. Modern times. So it's the modern history recreates the ancient history, and the old history is erased. Right. That's what we see happening there. Basically, this person named Emmanuel was genetically created by an alien group at the time that was seeking to change the direction in which mankind was headed, not because it had good intentions, but because at the time, as I write in Blue Blood, there was so much alien interference on the world at that time, after the destruction of Lemuria and Atlantis, and Sumeria was kind of spreading out in other directions. It was a free-for-all. And this particular alien group wanted to divert and create and control through religion and manipulation. It was a joint effort at the time of what has become known as the Pleiadians, reptilians, and the little grays, which really all work for one another and still do. There's a lot about those Pleiadians, which is all New Age falsehood. They're not what people think they are. Right. So anyway, they genetically created him and implanted him in the womb, hence the Immaculate Conception. It really wasn't an Immaculate Conception. It was an implantation in the womb, see? Right. And so he was already programmed. And all those years, the early childhood years where Emmanuel supposedly had vanished or was not around, he was not indoctrinated in mystery schools, as they say in Tibet and Egypt. That is not where he was. He was basically on board UFO or an underground bases being indoctrinated and programmed. That's what's going on. Wow. And the other thing is, there were a lot of political parties that were created at that time. There was the creation of the Roman Empire as the original New World Order that they were trying to impose and create. And as you know, a New World Order or a global government needs, by necessity, global religion to go along with it, so that people follow and worship all the same way, so that there's no diversion and no possibility of civil disobedience or rejection of the government policy. Right. Okay. So the role of Emmanuel was to create this New World religion at the time, to make it global, so that the empire could then take control of the entire planet with ease. Found within the shroud, embedded in the fibers, pollen samples that could have only come from the Middle East 2,000 years ago. Therefore, re-verifying the shroud as being authentic. Right. And this, of course, by Israeli Jewish scientists. So if they said the shroud is authentic, how could a Christian not? So now the shroud is being venerated again as being perfectly authentic, and the blood on the shroud is the actual blood of Christ. And so, and I've written about this in Blue Blood as well, when they bring the staged second coming of that's been authenticated now. So when they test the blood of the clone against the blood on the shroud, hello, it's an identical match. Mm-hmm. Who wouldn't believe that he's the second coming?
Wow. See? Another means to control us and to enslave us.
It's brilliant.
Right, it's a brilliantly conceived plan.
And then he says, I declare the New World Order my new holy empire.
Mm-hmm.
So, who's going to go against the real Christ?
Exactly. Now, the question has to be also asked, whose sketched body or whose blood is it on the shroud? Is it Emmanuel, the one who wound up dying in the south of France, or was it somebody else?
Well, no, Emmanuel died in Pakistan, or Srinagar, in Kashmir.
Okay.
Yes, but that blood is legitimate because it was on that was a shroud that was used to cover his body while they were resuscitating him.
Okay, so it was taken from the actual event,
yes,
or the supposed resurrection, and the shroud in which did come from the actual Emmanuel. But now that we have also discussed Emmanuel in detail, and now we understand and identified him, that certainly leads us to understand where we are headed in the future. But now, so we covered that. Now, the in-between issues, we talked about the Rothschilds, we talked about the Windsors, the Romanovs. Tell us about the royal family. Take us through Charles, Queen Elizabeth, Diana, and now what we know to be left of that lineage to be the future is Harry and I think William. Tell us about that family.
Well, that's a very big story, but I'll try to bottom line.
We've got 16 minutes left, so hope we can pull it off.
I'll give you a couple thousand years of history in a few minutes.
Okay.
Basically, all the royal families of Europe, whether it's the Windsors or the Queen Beatrice in Holland or whomever it may be, they're all related. They're all cousins of one another at this point. They've all intermarried over the centuries because they keep that blue blood lineage intact. And because they intermarry so closely like this, there comes a time when the percentage of reptilian genetics in the body becomes skewered. Mm-hmm. And let me explain. When you are a hybrid with a 50-50 split of mammalian and reptilian genetics, there is a problem as far as how the body will manifest when you're a half and half, literally. Mm-hmm. So the body genetics will always defer to the mind pattern of the soul personality in that body. So if you have a reptilian mind pattern, the reptilian genetics will activate and you will have a reptilian form. If you have a human or mammalian mind pattern, the human body will take hold. But of course, if the reptilian takes hold and you're the Queen of England, it's a bit of a problem, mm-hmm. because you're not going to be out in your regalia with your scales and your 3 horns sticking out of your crown.
Right.
So they need to maintain a human form in public. And the way to maintain that is through ritual that involves the ingestion of mammalian or human harmonics like hormones, blood, organs, etc. Mm-hmm. And so basically they ingest through ceremony those materials in sexual and sacrificial ritual. Mm-hmm. Now, over the centuries, the inbreeding in the Rothschilds and the Windsors became so that there was more percentage of reptilian than human. Enter Princess Diana and the mm-hmm. Spencer family. Mm. The reason that marriage took place had nothing to do with love. It had to do with the fact that she came from a committee of 300 family that closely support the Illuminati, and her genetics were more of a mammalian side than reptilian. Right. So by infusing her genetics into the Windsor family, it skewered back the royal family percentage to 50-50 again, mm-hmm. preventing any problems in the next generation or so. And then when she was done with that, she had to be sacrificed. Mm. And that's a whole nother...
That's a whole other story with the accident.
So that's why she was married to him, and that is why she produced those 2 heirs to the throne, mm-hmm. So that they could maintain their 50-50 split in the genetics.
And it's well documented, however, like you said, the marriage had nothing to do with love,
no.
because he was always involved with Camilla in the midst of it.
Well, hello. that's another story. When I was in Switzerland years ago, someone who knows the royal family, and I can't name names because I was sworn to secrecy, said if you look at Camilla's birth certificate, it's not Camilla, it's Camilo, and it is actually male.
Wow. Now, someone said there has also been said, and these are just little dispersions, but you might want to take it into under advising and under consideration that she or he has been described as looking like a crocodile.
Well, she looks like a man to me.
Well, yeah, that too. But the features in general have been made. That comparison has been made as far as looking like a crocodile. I mean, from a reptilian standpoint.
Yes. Well, the royal family basically, if you look at them, they really do look reptilian.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you look at the Queen Mum before she passed on. She was quite